Welcome, my friends, to Filmmaking and More. This show talks about filmmaking, screenwriting, and music involved in the film and TV movie making process. So sit back and relax and enjoy the ride. In this episode, we're going to look at digital cinema camera options, the features that we should be looking for based upon our budget, of course, and also accessories that we need. But before we do that, make sure you like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. Let us know what you think, all right? Come on, folks, let's do it. You heard the man. So under the cameras, we're going to look at cameras, of course, lenses, memory cards, accessories, and what you want to do if you want to try to do live streaming. So under cameras, there's many options, of course, and today people are looking for 4K cameras or better. There's UHD, EHD, high def, SD, of course. So based upon what your needs are and your budget, go ahead and choose, the ones that you want, because they can go up there in the, tens of thousands. So for any of you independents or amateurs, don't even consider anything above $2,000, because you're going to look at that as well as everything else that we're going to talk about today. So the other consideration you want to think about is image quality, of course. What are your pictures looking like, or what's your video look like? Are you able to does it provide file types that are easy to transfer, or do you need special software to kind of convert or, whatever, export? Anyway, so, and then we have, is it easy to use? Is it user-friendly, right? Is it user-friendly? Does it provide a lot of instructions, or is it very intuitive? Also, is it reliable and stable anywhere? So most of the times you're going to be inside a setting, perhaps, with everything there for you. There's probably going to be a lot of times we're going to be outside in the elements, under things, over things, you name it. So, especially in cars. So I'm not going to really go into cell phones, because that's not what I'm going to be doing here. It's a strictly standalone camera, just strictly cameras. Although there are some cell phones that do rival some of these cameras, you can't beat a professional camera. Come on. So what you also have to consider when getting a camera is your lenses. And there's two categories. There's a prime, which is a fixed, or a zoom, which is a variable depth, that kind of lens. Anyways, there's different types as well. There's the 50 millimeter, which is the usual standard for today, and was back in the day of Alfred Hitchcock, which is ironic enough. But anyways, it also does certain things that other cameras, one does one thing, one does the other, but they don't do the same thing. This one apparently does. And then there's anamorphic. So when you're talking about anamorphic, you're talking about the aspect ratio that is changed within the lens itself. And you can look into what you need, but basically it's how the picture is going to look on the screen. And are you going to able to change that aspect ratio to fit different, whatever you're showing on whatever device or whatever theater, perhaps. And then there's telephoto, of course. That's, the zooming type of lens, where it can get from far away, it can get really in close. And you want to use these for that kind of situations. There's different lengths, focal lengths, which was similar to the 50 millimeter for the standard. Telephotos are anywhere from 20 to 25 millimeter, and they can go, for the long shots, are 75 millimeter. And then there's wide angle, of course, and wide angles are going to provide you the wide shots. So kind of stands to reason with the name. So 14 to 20 millimeter is the focal length that is provided for these types of lenses. And then there's zoom that we touched on before, and it goes anywhere from 24 to 105 millimeter. I think it may even go higher. So you have to research a little more into what kind of scenario you're going to be shooting for in a movie or in a scene or whatever, and decide which lens you need, and can you find a lens that's available for your camera. Some cameras have, like mine, have an already built-in lens, and it does pretty good I mean, it can go farther, of course, if it was a bigger lens, but it does fine for, it's for the situation, for the camera and everything like that. I'm not going to be looking to do any long or real big wide shots, I can if I find the right spot to shoot from. So the next thing we're going to talk about is memory cards. We have SD, HD, CF. These three things provide different things for different cameras. You can't just get one memory card and make it fit to every kind of recording device out there. You have to figure out what you need. There's micro, SD as well. And so what the acronyms stand for determines on the kind of device you're actually filming and what kind of pictures are you trying to take. So if you're trying to take stills, then SD is the way to go. If you're trying to do movie film, CF is the way to go. Of course, you're going to have more expensive stuff. HD, you can get away with some HD stuff depending on, the length that you're shooting and maybe the quality. And then there's speed. So that's talking about the read and write capabilities of the memory cards. Of course, you want the quicker the better, but then you're going to be paying for it. So be prepared for that. And then there's, those are two categories as well, UHS, I'm sorry, it's misspelled here, UHS1 and then USH2. And of course, again, that has to deal strictly with the read and write capability of the memory card itself. And then of course, capacity. If you're going to be shooting 2 hours or more, then you're going to need some good capacity, and it's going to cost you. 256 gig is fine for most applications. If you're going to do a lot of film, then you should be doing at least 512, maybe 1K if you can afford it. And then in the near future, I hear there's stuff that's dealing with stuff that's more that's beyond 4K. We're talking about CFAS, I think it's XQD, and then CFW Express. And I've never really heard of any of that, so I can't really speak to any of that, but there you have it. And then there's accessories where you got tripods, rigs, batteries, and chargers. You can get cranes if you need a crane. There's cranes that are available and pretty reasonable from what I just saw. I don't know what the insurance is like on that or whatever. But, and then sliders. Not the burger, but the actual rail type of device that the camera sits on to make a smooth transition, if you're kind of panning, but without, changing the perspective. So anyways, so tripods, you can get them very cheaply, under $100 you can get a really good one for a decent sized camera. Of course, the heavier the camera, you should look at the specs of the tripods to make sure it can handle that. And then, how tall is it? What are you looking for? Are you looking for at least 6 foot reach maybe? Or, kind of go down below a little bit? How far? A couple feet? I don't know. Anyways, so shoulder rigs, then you have the shoulder harnesses that you put on, and everything attaches to that rig, and then the camera sits in front of you, the camera guy, and then they can kind of walk around, and it has lights and recording and all that. It can get really crazy and really expensive, but really cool looking, right? Space age. And then there's handheld rigs, so if you're walking along, if you think of independent documentary style, sometimes they're holding the camera as they're running, and they're kind of doing this thing, rather, they're doing this too sometimes, but, you got a lot of bounce with that shoulder, so at least you can maybe try to stabilize it. And they do actually have the things that are stabilizers in that kind of makeup. So, and then there's batteries and chargers, so you got to figure out which battery your camera does take, because it's not one size fit all. And then charger, for sure, but are you going to be charging it in the field? So you got to have a battery port to go into your battery or to your cigarette lighter thing for your car. Yeah, and then how many batteries do you need? If you're going to be doing a lot of filming outside, then you should plan for more batteries. That way you charge them up the night before and they're fresh and ready to go. So you're not, yelling at the battery out in the field. Anyway, so, and then there's the crane. There's a type that you can sit in. There's a type that I think sits on the ground that you can kind of control. And then sliders, of course, like I told you, is, usually a double rail system. And if you think of like parallel bars, and you have a device that the camera sits on, and it just slides across, and the camera guy just goes, yeah, that's right. Right. And live streaming, I don't know much about live streaming. I've seen it. I've been a part of it. I just never really understood all the ins and outs. It's kind of new to me, and I will be doing live streams for these kind of shows in the future. But right now, it's all edited, taped. Anyway, so you got live streams. It is not recommended to use if you're going to be using your DSLR cameras, because it actually ruins the sensor that's inside the camera. Apparently, that's what I hear. And then, but some cameras actually do have the capability of actually doing live streams. My cheapy little one that's a 4K camera cost me less than a couple $100. It actually does have an option for me to tape or go live, but I have to have it connected to an actual computer or whatever in order to get it to work and hook up to Facebook, for example, Facebook Live. I don't know. I'm sure it probably works the same for YouTube or whatever other platform that's out there that you're using for your situation here. Hey, if you like this episode of Filmmaking and More, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you know the next time I drop a video. I'd love to have you as part of the Juicyfroot family and the Filmmaking and More tribe. So follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The links are in the description box below. I want to thank you for supporting the channel and Juicyfroot Productions, because it gives us the access and resources that we need to keep bringing you content like this. Hey, I'm your host, Juicy, at Juicyfroot Productions and Robb Entertainment Corporation. We want to thank you for watching the video. Hey, make sure you leave a comment. Tell us how you like the show and what you think might make a great episode for the future. Once again, this is your host, Juicy, and for Filmmaking and More, I want to thank you for watching. Take care.
Gotta take you by the hand, oh yeah, and lead you to that brother's love.